Emily didn't like to remember her childhood in the old Victorian house in Maine. It was painted in the gray hues of her mother's illness and that particular silence. Not ordinary silence, but a thick, muffled cotton wool kind. Her mother, Caroline, had died in hospice, squeezing Emily's hand. Her last words were strange. "Don't let him pull the stitch tight." In the pocket of Caroline's old cardigan, which she had asked for, Emily found only one thing: a wooden sewing spool of black silk thread with a long, eerily cold silver needle stuck through it. After her mother's death, life forced Emily to return. The old New England house she inherited seemed like a salvation for her and her 8-year-old son, Jacob. The house greeted them with the same sensations from her childhood: the smell of old wood, wax, and basement damp. And that same silence. It hung in the air, thick as syrup. "It's quiet as a tomb here," muttered Jacob, a gamer used to sounds from his headphones. The silence wasn't just an absence of sound. It was active, devouring. The phone ring sounded muffled, as if from underwater. Sounds died before traveling a couple of yards, and at night, something else began. Through that cotton wool deafness, a new sound would pierce through. Thin, metallic, rhythmic, as if a needle was passing through heavy canvas. Emily would jump up, check the windows, walk the halls, nothing. But the sound came from the wall, from under the bed, right in her ear. "Mom, who is the stitcher?" Jacob asked one morning, shoveling in his Lucky Charms. Emily dropped her mug. It hit the linoleum with a dull, barely audible thump, like a rag doll. "What? Where did you hear that?" "He's in my dreams. A tall man in an old-fashioned suit. He says Grandma Caroline left the job unfinished, that it's time to sew the last hole shut." With trembling hands, Emily searched the local archives online. She found old newspaper clippings with difficulty. In 1927, a tragic incident occurred in the house. The owner, a tailor named Elijah Page, known for his bad temper and reclusiveness, lost his wife and young son during the Spanish flu epidemic. A year later, he was found dead in his workshop. The official cause was heart failure, but a reporter noted a peculiarity. On his neck, lips, and eyelids were expertly applied black silk stitches, as if someone had sewn his mouth and eyes shut. A needle protruded from a spool clutched in his hand. The spool, according to the description, was wooden. That same night, the ztk sound didn't come from the house. In the nightlight's glow, she saw her son lying on his back, eyes wide open, full of terror, but his body completely still, as if paralyzed. Hovering over him, translucent and flickering like a projection, was a figure in an early-century suit. Elijah Page's long fingers were pulling a black, shiny thread from his own half-decayed mouth. The boy couldn't even scream. The silence was squeezing his throat like a noose. Instinct proved stronger than horror. Emily pulled from her robe pocket the very same old needle and spool her mother had given her. This was not a sewing kit. It was a tool. Not for creating, but for tearing. She didn't lunge at the ghost. She drove the needle into her own palm, feeling a burning, icy pain, and she pulled the thread upward toward the ceiling with a scream that finally shattered the silence. A sound erupted, loud, heart-rending, like giant canvas tearing. Elijah's specter wailed silently, and its form distorted. The black stitches on his face, on his neck, began to unravel one after another, and from them poured not light, but darkness and the whisper of thousands of unspoken words, silenced for years. He had tried to sew shut the hole in reality punched through by his grief, to stitch up everything that caused pain, sound, memory, life. And his madness, stitched into the very fabric of the house, was passed down like a family heirloom, the needle. The ghost disintegrated, sucked into the very rupture it had so desperately tried to close. The silence burst. Emily heard a deafening crash. Furniture falling in the next room, the wind howling in the pipes, her own son sobbing. It was the most beautiful, most painful chaos of sounds. The next morning, the house was just an old house. Jacob played loud video games. but on Emily's palm remained a scar, a thin, silvery line like a stitch. And in the trinket box on the dresser lay the old spool. The thread on it was now severed. She understood her mother's words now. Don't let him pull the stitch tight. Caroline had kept that stitch, that fragile boundary between the ancestors' madness and reality, taut all her life, paying for it with her vitality, her health. She died to pass the needle to her daughter, not to sew with, but to, at the right moment, tear.